Good afternoon, friends. At the outset, my thanks to RSS Abu, Scientific Committee, and the RX event for inviting me. And is World Diabetes Day. Not going to listen anything against World Diabetes. So, in next 10 minutes, I'll be talking about all the noise which is created around hypoglycemia, maybe wasted interest. Old molecules like insulin are unnecessarily blamed, and if friends, just a common sense, I start. If hypoglycemia is the cause of cardiovascular mortality, then none of type 2 diabetic patient who are taking insulin and sulfonylurea years, decades, alive, all dead. We are seeing healthy, non-complicated type 2 diabetics of 30 years duration, 40 years on insulin, on sulfonylurea. What is the truth behind it? Let me explore. And throughout the talk of my esteemed colleague, Dr. Sandeep, I was hearing the words probably and possibly, hypothesis. What is all this? Medicine, it is a practice based on hard evidences. And I am going to show you hard evidence. My colleague was talking about the molecular level, micro molecular level. But does it translate into clinical practice? Is it really that significant which translates into? Let us see one by one. So this is a natural history of people with type 2 diabetes. That people with diabetes and cardiovascular disease in general die earlier than those without diabetes or cardiovascular. They are on metformin, sulfonylurea, SGLT2, GLP-1 receptor. The fate of type 2 diabetic year-old male patient dies on an average 12 years earlier with diabetes and cardiovascular compared with no diabetes and cardiovascular. And you have to keep in mind that type 2 diabetes progression is a multifactorial challenge. So, on one hand, we have to manage glucose and the hypoglycemia, which my colleague he stressed upon in talk, need for medication, declining beta cell function. So, this is the things we should mind, and these are unavoidable things. And we should also keep in mind the cardiovascular risk, weight, and diabetic complication. This is the way we manage a patient with type 2 diabetes. What is ideal intervention? Ideal intervention is keep glucose under control. We should preserve beta cell function. We try to minimize hypoglycemia. I am not promoting hypoglycemia, but you should go outright to make patient hypoglycemic. No, none of we clinicians, we outrightly make a patient. Need for medication should be minimum, and we should also keep in eye reduction of cardiovascular risk and diabetic complication. And same thing is for the heart failure. Diabetics in general, they fare poorer to non-diabetics as far as the heart failure outcomes are concerned. Now, let me talk about the benefit of the control. So, while talking about hypoglycemia, we should not ignore the very important aspect of glycemic. That was taught to us by the UKPDS decades earlier, that every 1% HbA1c has significant health benefit, long-term health benefit for a diabetic patient. So, I need not go through all these statistics. We all know about these statistics, the importance of glycemic control. And while talking about prevention of hypoglycemia, we should not undermine the importance of glycemic control. So, what are our choices when we are talking about good glycemic control? So, as you can see, that sulfonylureas are one of the mainstay of therapy, want a tight glycemic control in, and followed by the other agents like TZDs and AGIs, glinides, DPP4 inhibitors. I am not talking about insulin. Insulin, you can reduce the HbA1c by infinity. So, you bring any HbA1c and insulin is going to bring it down to normal level. Efficacy as combination therapy, because now monotherapy is not in vogue. A lot of you will ask question, what about combination therapy? And look at the figures, sulfonylurea and metformin are one of the or are the most potent combination as far as the HbA1c reduction. And this is a direct comparison of glimepiride metformin versus metformin analysis. And patients treated with glimepiride have 12% greater reduction of A1C PP4 inhibitor. What led to invention of? There was a lot of UN cry, which is still unproven, in way back in 1970, that there is increased risk of cardiovascular mortality with tolbutamide. So that brought into the invention of the newer and the modern sulfonylureas, right? And now even this consensus recommendation of international task force clearly says that SUs such as glimepiride, glycoside modifiers are associated with better safety profiles. This is how the modern sulfonylureas, they are more cardio-friendly. Modern sulfonylureas are insulin secretagogues that promote release of insulin pancreatic beta cell by binding to sulfonylurea receptors and inhibit potassium ATP channels. Now, compared to older sulfonylurea, newer sulfonylurea, modern sulfonylureas have lower risk of hypoglycemia. You can see in this slide, as compared to older sulfonylurea, glimepiride has significant lower hypoglycemia rates. Now let us come to hard trials. First, I will talk about the TOSCA-IT trial. You all know that in that trial, metformin pioglitazone was compared to sulfonylurea. Here is the result. The incidence of cardiovascular events was similar in patients treated with sulfonylurea, mostly glimepiride and glycoside, and those treated with pioglitazone as an add-on to. And naturally, in sulfonylurea arm, there were more incidence of hypoglycemia, but that did not translate in increased cardiovascular mortality. They were comparable. Let us talk about Carolina trial. Carolina trial, it reassures the cardiovascular safety of modern sulfonylurea. So we all know in Carolina trial, linagliptin was compared to glimepiride as a combination metformin, and there was no significant difference in occurrence of 3-point MACE in patients treated with glimepiride as compared to those linagliptin. And let us talk about the hypoglycemia. It was the secondary endpoint, Carolina. Now look at, I am just targeting at the hypoglycemic events. So naturally in glimepiride, there were higher number of patients who maintain A1C less than 7% higher number of patients in linagliptin receiving treatment and maintaining A1C less than 7% without need for rescue medication or without moderate or severe hypoglycemia. But did it translate into increased cardiovascular mortality? No, they were comparable. And when we talk about the severe hypoglycemia, look, in Carolina trial, the severe hypoglycemia was 2% in linagliptin. It was 27% in glimepiride arm, but there was no difference in cardiovascular outcome. Now, I'm not promoting only sulfonylurea. Let us talk about origin trial. So, in origin trial, we all know that early insulin therapy with glargine was compared to oral antidiabetic, and here you see that there was no difference in the cardiovascular outcomes, whether you are using insulin glargine or you are using anti-diabetic without the potency for hypoglycemia. And I will again show this slide of hypoglycemia in origin trial. Here hypoglycemia was significantly more in glargine arm as compared to standard arm. There was no difference in cardiovascular mortality. This is the secondary cardiovascular. And I am not discussing about the weight issues with sulfonylurea and with modern sulfonylurea. That issue is also not the topic of discussion. And there is a lot of information and missing information about the newer sulfonylureas, modern sulfonylurea, appropriately presented in such. So I will show the same slide which my colleague showed. You can see in this slide that as compared to the intensive and the standard arm, none of the studies except for the ACCORD trial showed increased cardiovascular intensive control. So I will conclude by slide severe hypoglycemia and cardiovascular risk. There is uncertainty regarding direct pathophysiological link in severe hypoglycemia and macrovascular events, adverse clinical outcomes, and mortality in type 2 diabetes. Large clinical trials have reported increased hazard ratio, which colleague has shown to you. I am adding to this for all-cause mortality and cardiovascular, but such association has not been demonstrated in prospective trials of people with type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetics, we know, they are more prone to severe hypoglycemia. So why is there no increase in the cardiovascular mortality in type 1 to severe hypoglycemia? Other pre-existing cardiovascular risk factors, in addition to hypoglycemia, may be the major link in final cardiovascular events. So a patient with type 2 diabetes, apart from hyperglycemia, carries a burden of CKD, heart failure, atherosclerotic cardiovascular, and all this in combination leads to increase in cardiovascular risk, not just hyper or hypoglycemia per se. And our smartness is to balance the immediate goal with the our ultimate goal should be reduction in the cardiovascular death, but not at the cost of compromising on the quality of the glycemic control. And all my wise friends sitting here, I am not going to answer that what has broken the camel's. It's not the last straw, it is the burden this poor camel is already carrying, has broken its back. But what is blamed is this last straw. So I will put hypoglycemia as the last straw which we are blaming for a cardiovascular event in already burdened patient with. And as it is proverb in Indian courts that 100 culprits may be released, but a single innocent will not be punished unless there is a clinching evidence about a direct association of severe hypoglycemia and cardiovascular. Not blame severe hypoglycemia or agents which are likely to cause it, like sulfonylurea and insulin, for increased cardiovascular. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant, Ramesh. And Dr. Sandeep, would you like to counter him?
Very excellent, I would say, by my esteemed colleague Dr. Goyal. He mentioned about newer oral antidiabetic drugs like the glimepiride, newer sulfonylurea, newer insulins, newer. Why we are going towards newer sulfonylureas, newer insulins, glargine and degludec, and why we are going towards that? Because hypoglycemia. Everybody is mentioning these are efficacy is same. You use NPH or you use a glargine or you use a degludec. Efficacy is same. They are mentioning hypoglycemia kam karti. ACP in 2018 relaxed the criteria for the HbA1c from for 7 to 8 rather than the strict 6.5. Even now, for the most of the comorbid conditions, we have a relaxed criteria 7.5. We don't want a very strict control in the patients with the comorbid condition to reduce the same thing, PV mortality and morbidity. I would like my patient to ally with the HbA1c of 7.2 rather than the dad with the HbA1c of 6.
Just say that regarding the newer sulfonylureas, newer insulin, innovation is a part of medicine, and we have to progress with innovation. In future, there would be still newer insulin, still newer sulfonylureas, but that doesn't take away the merit from the current sulfonylureas like glimepiride and the extended release gliclazide and the insulins like glargine. So first thing is that. The second thing is you said that you happy with your patient higher HbA1c, dying with a HbA1c of 6.8. So again, my argument is that there is no clinching evidence that patient with HbA of 6.8 lives shorter than a HbA1c of 7.5. In fact, we always individualize our glycemic targets, and you are quite right that in few selected patients we target a HbA1c 7.8. But what you are not wisely mentioned to this audience is that in few selected patients we target a HbA1c of less than 6.5 also. So in medicine, particularly in diabetology, we always have to individualize our target.
I have a of hand favoring that. And manner spoke about hypoglycemia. How many of you does that? Let me be.
Yeah, there is a nota also. So you can, third option, you can give the third option of nota also. Because most of we are very comfortable. Also agree after this sulfonylureas and
I think there to both